96% of all families are emotionally dysfunctional. I'll give you an example. When you were 2 years old, let me just give you an example. When you were 2 years old, running around outside, you fall down, you scrape your knee, start to cry. What are you told?
What am I told? Most likely, stop crying.
That's right. What else? Toughen up, buttercup. Rub dirt in it. It doesn't hurt. Be a big boy. Don't be a sissy. And how many times were you told those sorts of things? Those are called emotionally invalidating statements, the most pervasive and insidious form of emotional abuse there is. And you were fed on that, and every man and woman was fed on that because their parents are anxious around their children's emotions. They don't know how to cope with them. To soothe their own anxiety, they invalidate their children's emotions. The very worst thing you can do, because at 2 to 5 years old, the emotional centers of the brain are coming online, and parents, good parents, have to start coaching their children how to manage their own emotions. But if parents can't manage their own emotions, there is no way they can teach kids how to do that. And so everybody becomes emotionally dysfunctional. So you're told all your life while you're at home that emotions are bad. And then you're taught in school that rationality is primo and emotions are bad and you're rational. You're taught the formal system of education is based on this rationality bias, totally wrong. And so what happens when you get older? Now you're 20 now, so you've gotten through puberty and gotten out of high school. Ugh, what a mess, right? Now you're in college, and think about your experiences with girls. I'm assuming you're hetero, and just think about your experiences with girls and how deep of an intimate relationship can they enter into, and how deep of an intimate relationship can you enter into? And I will say that maybe 2 inches, because everybody feels emotionally unsafe.
What do you mean 2 inches?
I mean, say you got a pool that's 10 feet deep, and you can go to the bottom of the pool and be in very deep intimacy. Most people maybe can make it 2 inches into the pool. They can put their little toe in the pool, and that's as intimate as they want to get because they don't feel emotionally safe. And the reason for that is for all of this emotional invalidation that's occurred since childhood. We haven't been taught how to become emotionally incompetent. So we don't know how to be emotionally self-aware. We don't know how to self-regulate, and we don't know how to have empathy. All skills that have to be taught. And we don't learn them in the family, and we're certainly not going to learn them at the Kelley School of Business, right?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing, like the big thing.
And the neuroscience behind it is clear. We have 2 systems in our brain, the task focused, we have many systems, but the 2 relevant ones are task focused and default mode. Task focused is all about what education is about: knowledge acquisition, learning algorithms and procedures, learning critical thinking, learning logic, reasoning, statistical analysis, probability analysis, scientific method, quantitative, qualitative analysis, all that stuff. That is all task-focused training. Our default mode, which is where we sit all the time, is the social part of the brain. Learning how to listen, learning how to use empathy, learning how to calm people down, learning how to manage and reprogram childhood triggers. All of that stuff is called the social network, or the default mode. And what's interesting is the task focused system and the default mode are binary. Only one can be on at a time. When we're task focused, we can't be social. When we're social, we can't be task focused. And so education says, turn off that default mode, ignore it, ignore that man behind the curtain, and focus only on task focus, because the rest of it is just garbage and it will do nothing but get you in trouble. Totally wrong. There's a study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study out of San Diego, Kaiser Permanente. The study's been going on for over 10 years now. You heard about it?
Mm-hmm.
So every time a child is emotionally invalidated, that's an ACE. That's an adverse childhood experience. And what the study shows is when you're emotionally invalidated, or when you suffer that kind of emotional abuse, you're 10 to 1,000 times more likely to die of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, a million other horrible diseases later in life, because the stress of being emotionally abused in childhood carries all the way through adulthood.
Yeah. And we don't even realize, I'm sitting here in college.
We're totally ignorant of all this stuff, which is why I'm on a mission as a peacemaker to try to educate people that the way we do things is wrong. And if we want to change, if I had a magic wand, we'll never eliminate prisons completely, because there's always a small percentage of the population that's dangerous. But the prisons should not be the lock them up kind. It should be a hospital type prison, because those people their brains are really
sick. Yeah.
They've got brain dysfunction. They're never going to be able to get out of it, and so they're just unsafe. There's a very small percentage of people that are that way. Everybody else, they're in there because they were abused as children. Stop the abuse, you'll stop the crime. It's that simple.
Well, I think that's true to an even different degree. Like, what you're really talking about is emotional incompetence, right? Like,
right.
You're not trained to be emotionally competent. And there are amazing studies where, I think it was 90% of 90% of the people in prisons are antisocial. They have some form of antisocial problems.
That's a psychological assessment, but they're not understanding root cause. And here's what we learned in working with thousands and thousands of lifers and long-termers. Once you teach them the skills, they change and transform. And in fact, we have about, I'm going to say 2,000 inmates that have been released in California that we directly trained. Not one case of reoffending.
Wow.
No recidivism. Zero.
As opposed to 50% in the general population.
That's right.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I was watching the testimonial videos that you have of these lifers, 25 to life, 15 to life, and they're so well spoken. Like you look at this
that way when we started with them.
Right? Like you ask the question, how this person does not look like they should be in prison, like
right.
they look.
And they shouldn't be. They just got some bad, they got
training
juju going on. They were born into bad families who couldn't train them properly. And so, and they were inculcated into the criminal mind, and that's all they know. Look, babies are not born as murders are not born. Murders are bred.
Yeah.
And so if we want to stop crime, then we start teaching parents to be emotionally competent and teach them how to teach their children to be emotionally competent. Parents are coaches. They have to be emotional coaches for their children, not disciplinarians. That's totally the wrong way to do it.
Well, that was one of the more interesting things that sort of came to mind as you were speaking. You're saying that, I forget the word that you're saying, but like we have this problem where we don't understand and we can't recognize our own emotions. So I feel angry. I don't know that I'm angry. Alexithymia. So what you're describing essentially is the terrible twos, right? That's exactly what happens during the terrible twos.
That's exactly right. And
the
here's
child gets.
That's right.
Go. Yeah, go.
The cure to the terrible twos is when a little boy or a little girl is having a meltdown, which is, by the way, is the brain's way of protecting the baby.
Of course.
Meltdowns are not abnormal behaviors. It's the natural response to emotional overload. And the brain's way of dealing with that is to start crying and shouting and punching your fist through the wall in the baby, in toddler level, because the brain is protecting itself from overload. So the baby goes into meltdown. How do you fix that? You label the toddler's emotion. Oh, baby, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're really mad. Yeah. You're really frustrated. Yeah. You're really mad. Yeah. And you're sad. Yeah. Okay. You don't feel loved. Yeah.
And he
overwhelmed.
Less overload. Yeah.
30 seconds. Did you run across the video how to calm an angry child in 30 seconds or less?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So there it is. Those were my niece and nephew, by the way, that many years, no, not that many years ago, probably 6 or 7 years ago. They're all teenagers now. I've gotten emails from parents saying that when they have used these skills on their 2-year-olds, they end all tantrums after 4 months.
Wow.
No more tantrums ever. I did my first live workshop in 2 years in May, and we did a Zoom follow-up with everybody in the workshop. And these two guys, two managers at this company, both have 5-year-olds, and they both reported the same thing. I started affecting my 5-year-old 3 weeks ago. The behavioral change in him over the last 3 weeks is nothing short of astounding. And they both reported this. He is now calm. He is able to regulate his own emotions. He affect labels himself, and he affect labels us too, which is really cute and good. And he is completely calming himself down. And all I do is affect labeling. And the other dad reported exactly the same thing. He said, yeah, it's happening with my 5-year-old too. I can't believe it. Complete massive change of behavior in 3 weeks.
Wow. So it's emotional competence. That's what it is. Right?
Being emotionally competent as a parent so that you can coach your children into emotional competency. Once you know how to be emotionally competent, it's not that difficult to teach your children the skills, but you have to have the skills yourself.
And that's one of the things.
You have to be emotionally self-aware, you have to be able to self-regulate, and you have to have empathy, cognitive and affective empathy.